I hear some noise in your background.
You're nice in my background.
Our radio playing. While Patrick do that, let me good good afternoon everyone and welcome to another Sunday roundtable discussion. Good afternoon, Catherine. You've been a regular listener and it's good to see you back with us again. Gentlemen, oh man, today is Independence Day. Happy Independence. 61 years and counting. 61 years since Jamaica got independence. So there's much to discuss. And before we get to that, last,
Yeah, man.
I am my host today, co-host are Last Beckford, Lassell Crawford, Patrick McCarthy, and Wilfred Rattigan will join us later. So our discussion, we're gonna start with looking at the Sunday Gleaner Observer and then move slowly into the main topic for discussion. Last,
Yeah, man.
anything in the news for us to follow up on?
Oh, yes. First, I want to say, happy independence to all the viewers. Looking back over the last week, are you hearing me clearly?
Yes, go ahead.
Looking back over the last week, we saw some very important news items. The first being the GLP Darrell Vaz bringing a lawsuit against the PNP Dayton Campbell.
Okay.
This lawsuit concerns long-standing rumors about the connection of Darrell Vaz to the murder of Diane Smith in 1983. Those of us who were around at the time remember the immaculate schoolgirl who was murdered on Constant Spring Road. Apparently what happened is that Dayton Campbell at a political event made some kind of reference to connect Darrell Vaz to that whole incident. So Darrell is threatening a lawsuit, or I don't know if he has actually filed the suit already, but that has been the news concerning that. We also see the situation with Isat Buchanan, the lawyer who was the leader of the Human Rights Committee for the People's National Party, who had to resign because of comments he made about Paula Llewellyn, the Director of Public Prosecutions. Apparently, Buchanan made some kind of lewd statements about Paula Llewellyn, quoting a song by Vybz Kartel. And a lot of people in the society have criticized him for, that kind of comment. So it wasn't clear whether or not he was forced to resign by the People's National Party or he voluntarily resigned from the Human Rights Committee. But I think he has since apologized publicly to Paula Llewellyn. So that has been in the news. Last week we mentioned about the situation of the interdiction of the Police Federation chairman by the Commissioner of Police and the Police High Command. Well, since that time, the Police Federation chairman had tried to get an injunction in the courts against the disciplinary actions of the Police High Command and the Commissioner of Police. This week, the papers reported that the courts rejected the injunction by the Police Federation chairman. So, also in the news is the confirmation by the Prime Minister that troops are actually making plans to go to Haiti to assist the Haitians in the crisis that is taking place in Haiti. The Gleaner report did not state how many troops and in what time frame these people will be going to Haiti. But that was one of the items of the week. Don't know if you have any additional items we love to add to that, Mikey.
Well, no, but I want to say something on the ISAT thing because I just think that what he did was so foolish. You know, the remarks he made about the DPP is so foolish, and not only foolish, but I don't. I'm said to myself, why would he do that and then bring Vibes Cartel name back into the national discussion? You know, and he's representing Vibes Cartel. You see, but I think it show that this incident points to something about us men, how we relate to the Jamaican woman, you know, and now is independence time. I hope we kind of have a discussion about that. Okay. Now, I really think that from what I gathered, the troop contingent going to Haiti is like 200 Jamaican soldiers. They're planning on sending to Haiti. But in today's Gleaner, Gardner Robinson raised a very interesting point. And this is what he said. The question he asked is whether Haiti will be the equivalent of Grenada. And he said that because in 1983, when the JLP was behind in the polls, as they are now, Grenada bailed them out, and Seaga stock went up. So,
Wilfred Rattigan, WhatsApp audio.
He's wondering, Rattigan. All right. He's wondering if this could be a repeat, you know, by Jamaica going to Haiti, sending troops.
I hear you.
I'm hearing you, Rattigan. Can you hear me? Rattigan, I'm hearing you.
Ratty, can you hear? I don't think him getting any sound.
Who call him? Because yeah, so I'm wondering in terms of the news in today's Sunday Gleaner, by going to 80, is that a
Yeah, but me not hear no sound at all from the brother them.
We can hear you
Me
clearly,
the
but
program, but me not hear nothing. Yeah.
yeah, here we
Oh,
know?
them say them can't hear me, but me can't hear them.
Yeah, so the question is, and Gordon Ramsay posed it in this morning in one of the commentary section, you know, if 80 could do for the JLP government what Grenada did for Siaga, that's a question. So the likelihood,
No,
if
the
they are thinking
headphone
along
connected
this,
to the mixer.
if they are thinking along this line, then you might see more troops going to Jamaica pretty soon. Hey, Patrick,
you mean troops going to Haiti?
to Haiti, pretty soon.
Yeah. The thing about it is, one of the problems I see with this government is that they'll do things without any explanation as to why they do what they do, and then leave things up in the air for us to figure it out, and then it's like it doesn't matter to us, what's being done or what's being said. And I think that's one of the things we always have to be mindful of. What is the whole purpose of sending troops to Haiti, and exactly what will be their function going there? We know that the Haitian situation is a real delicate one, and Haiti has faced pretty much more than what we have ever experienced in colonial ruling, and that is something that has
What? Where are settings?
that that is something that has really
Continue,
Settings.
Patrick, continue.
yeah, that is something that has really affected them to this day, right? Haiti being the oldest independent,
Which part? Me not see it.
are supposedly the oldest
None. It's not upon that thing.
independent slave
You click on
colony.
settings already, I'm with the camera, audio, virtual background.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to talk over it.
Oh yeah, it come up on my one long time.
You can mute him.
Yeah,
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that it leaves the Jamaican people in a real awkward situation of not understanding what's really taking place in terms of Jamaican troops going overseas. Right? We know that that's never a good sign. That's never a good sign when our troops have to go overseas. And what are they really going over there to do? It's a lot to be unpackaged, and it's a lot for people to understand. So for that reason, it's not something I'm in support of personally.
My views kind of different, Patrick and Nita. You see, I understand where Gordon Robinson coming from, and the history with the Grenada Revolution and all that kind of stuff. But it's all good and well that over the years, we've been talking about Haiti and what other people have done to Haiti and what other people not doing for Haiti. But at this time, I would side with wholeness and sending troops to Haiti. You know why?
Why?
Haiti is in a crisis situation right now. And we can't always say America and Europe and everybody else to do something and we not doing anything. The next thing is that Haiti has become a national security issue for Jamaica. We might say we have a security problem in Jamaica, and the government need to focus on the security problem in Jamaica. But we have to recognize that Haiti is a national security problem for Jamaica. For the reason that, one, Jamaica have porous borders. Haiti, we know the gun two countries. We see how easy it is for people who are refugees just to take a boat and come to Jamaica. So I believe that if in any way we can help to bring some stability and security to Haiti, it will help the Haitians and it will also help us. Right? That is the perspective that I am looking at it from. That we need to help Haiti. Last October, the president in Haiti called for, or the prime minister called for assistance from the United Nations, right? And they've been looking at ways. He actually asked for some kind of multinational force to come and help them to bring back some kind of order, right? And the United Nations have been looking at who would be willing to lead such a multinational force down in Haiti, right? The Kenyans came forward and, they're trying to put together some kind of force that could go and help. At this time, I think, Jamaica should participate.
Can you hear me, Ratigan? So if you're okay now, you hear? You can, okay. Yes, so you're saying, Lass, that you're in support of wholeness, sending troops to Haiti.
Yes, I am in support of wholeness sending troops to Haiti because, as I said, I think it's a national security problem for Jamaica. That if the gangs continue to control Haiti, and to call the shots in Haiti, it will only increase that national security problem.
Ratigan, you're the authority on the security. What do you think?
No, Sam, 30 for nothing. Bless up, Patrick. I say, lads.
Yes,
And
yes.
Yes, man.
viewing audience.
Respect.
Yeah. No, my view on it is that Jamaica shouldn't send anybody to Haiti for a number of reasons. One is it should be a CARICOM led effort. And if you notice, you see Kenya is going, but you don't see the US, you don't see Canada, you don't see France, you don't see none of the superpowers who actually are the real reason for Haiti's demise right now. You don't see them jumping in to help, right? And what they're doing, they're pushing up these African countries and Caribbean countries to do it. Now, Jamaica has a trust deficit in CARICOM for a number of reasons. And that's why I would prefer to see a CARICOM-led effort going in there, along with, if they want to send the African country, that's fine. But first of all, you're sending people over there and they don't understand the culture. It's a different culture than the Jamaican culture. The language is different. The terrain is different. And you're up against armed and well-trained ex-soldiers. These are not just your ordinary criminals. Remember, these are military people that they disbanded the army. And so they're just running around now and they're just using criminal activities to line their pockets. So it's going to be a tough fight for them. Now, if the US wants their help, or Canada or Haiti or whatever, let them send people. But if we're going in, I think we should go in as a CARICOM, because Haiti is part of CARICOM. I think we should go in as a CARICOM-led thing. And then also, you have to define, okay, what's the mission? Why are we going in there? What are we doing? Are we going in there as sitting ducks just to protect a certain building or a certain individual? I haven't heard anything concerning that. They've said, oh, it's overrun, and so we're going in. We need to make a declaration as to whether or not Haiti is a failed state, because how you define Haiti will determine what kind of force you put inside there. You can't just send people inside there. What's the purpose? Is it regime change? Is it to bolster the regime? Is it to protect natural resources for first world powers? I mean, we don't know. And before I would lend my support to that, I'd like to know all of these answers. I'd like to know answers to these questions before we let people in, because what you don't want to do, what you really don't want to do, is send people in without a mission. And we've seen where that's happening in the Middle East, where you send people in without a mission and you see how things turn out. Another point is this. 2 weeks ago, the Court of Appeal in Jamaica ruled, well, it supported the Supreme Court's decision that states of emergency, as declared and as implemented in Jamaica, they're unconstitutional, right? Now, the Constitution provides that in the event of a war, that the government can call a state of emergency. I'm just fearful that you're sending 20 soldiers over there, 200, whatever, because the moment one of them get mortally wounded, that Jamaica could declare a war. And by doing so, they could say, we're going to implement a state of emergency in Jamaica. And now we have a problem, because now you can suspend all other rights protected by the Constitution. And we see where they tried that before. And now a court has come out and said, hey, it's unconstitutional. And the government appealed that decision to the Court of Appeal. And the Court of Appeal rejected the government's appeal. It rejected it on the ground of jurisdiction, saying that a habeas corpus writ, once determined at the Supreme Court level, should not rise to the level of the Court of Appeal. But in doing so, that lower court ruling stands, which is states of emergency, as proclaimed by the Governor General, are unconstitutional. So there are lots of issues about going into Haiti that I am hesitant about Jamaica sending anyone into Haiti right now. That's my position.
I want to say that I'm in support of sending troops into Haiti as part of a broad CARICOM forces. I know. I think we owe it to Haiti. We owe it to Haiti to stand with Haiti and do what is possible. Because what's happening in Haiti is going to have an impact on Jamaica, indirectly or directly. You know, so anything, and I would like to see something like the CARICOM forces alongside some Canadian forces who can speak the language, because all of those CARICOM, there's not many countries in the CARICOM that speaks French. Not many. So it would be wise to have someone like Canada as the lead force backed by the CARICOM forces, you know. So that is what I would really like to see. But continuing the news, Radigan, you have some fresh news, update news as to your...
Mike, before you move on, can I just say something? Yeah. Because we state we views on it, but if we can do a rebuttal, that would be good. Because a number of things raised, and for example, you know, like I stated before, in terms of this sending a Jamaican troops and all of that, it's more than just a matter of agreeing or disagreeing, right? What I'm saying also is that there's nothing said to the Jamaican people in terms of why we would be sending troops over there, and, you know, even as Rattery is, what the mission would be, right? That's one. Secondly, yes, Jamaica is at a deficit in terms of how they handle matters, particularly matters in the region, right? We do have a real favorable weighting among our CARICOM neighbors. That's the other thing. And furthermore, we don't want it to become a distraction with what's happening with us, right, in Jamaica right now. That's the other thing. The other thing is, as Ratty raised again, in terms of what the mission is, right? Nothing has been said to the people about that, you know? So it's, before you can come to an understanding in terms of whether you would support or you wouldn't, right? Let's hear the case for sending them. They have just made the decision to send them without making a case for us to understand much clearer and for the Jamaican people to get a full understanding about, right? So we don't have much to even talk about around this, and that's the problem, you know.
Can
So
I
it's
can I
like
respond?
I
Can I
disagree
respond to that?
with
Can
this
I
thing.
respond to that a little bit?
Mm.
The Radigan,
Yes, sir.
the request that the Prime Minister from Haiti made in October was for a multinational contingent to have sufficient force to conduct policing duties inside of Haiti to bring back some kind of order. That was the nature of his request, right? So I don't think it would be anything about regime change. The thing talk about bringing back some kind of order so that the democratic process could continue, right? But the overbearing thing for me is that Haiti, as it is controlled by gangs, is a major security problem for Jamaica. And I think that is why that is the decision, that is the basis of the decision I believe that the government is responding, right? And I support that. If that is so, I support it. I believe they should say, as you said, they should say, okay, we are going as part of whatever international contingent, but this will be our role. They need to say that, right? They need to define what specifically the Jamaican contingent will be doing, whether they'll be training any form of Asian people to take security responsibilities after they leave, whether their mission is training or their mission is active policing in Haiti. They need to state that, right? But the overall thing, I support. I don't say it have to be a CARICOM contingent, a CARICOM effort. If any kind of multinational effort that can bring any substantial order in Haiti, I support at this time.
All right. Lots of things to unpack here. First thing, as Patrick says, before you commit Jamaicans in any effort overseas, one of the things that you must do as a government, you have to explain to the people, why is it that we're sending our people to another country? For what purpose? How long? All of these things. That's number one. Number two, and we haven't heard that. We haven't gotten a full justification as to why we're sending troops. We're committing troops there. Second thing is, you said that the Prime Minister asked for an international, a body of international assistance, people from various countries to come in. Then why is it that we don't have the US? Why is it we don't have all of the European countries? We don't have North American countries. Why is it we don't have them? We have us going in there. I'm concerned about that. The other thing about this national security issue affecting Jamaica, who said that? Where is the evidence? Where's the evidence? Because don't forget, we don't share a common border. They have the Caribbean Sea between us, right? So we can protect our border if the idea is that we're going to be invaded or we're going to have illegals coming in. Now, don't forget that this Minister of National Security said last year that he has 1.2 billion US dollars to spend covering borders and everything like that. And don't forget that they have something called Plan Secure Jamaica, which is the crime plan. And that crime plan has an extensive section on border security. So if the idea is that you're afraid of people coming from Haiti coming into your country, shore up your borders. You have them. You have admitted that you have the money. You have admitted that you have the resources to do it. They have a man assigned to Southcom in Florida, right, where the satellites are, so that you can monitor the Caribbean. So you can monitor vessels going from Haiti to Jamaica. And then they also showed up the JDF capability to interdict at sea. I mean, just recently they interdicted some drug couriers right? Because the police, they're allowed to patrol out to a certain distance, and beyond that, it's the military. So if that is the idea, I don't know why we're sending people, because we think that is going to be a security issue because the gangs are marauding, pillaging Haiti. And I'm saying, no, there are other ways they can do it without sending people into harm's way. And not only am I saying that, but the government itself has admitted that, yes, we know border security is an issue, and we have beefed it up, and we have money, and we buy boats, and we have planes, and we have this, and we have that, and we have that, and we have that. I just think that this is a way to distract what's going on in Jamaica, as Patrick said. I agree with him wholeheartedly, because there are other things that you could be doing, right? And not only that, this thing is half-baked. We don't know the mission. The idea, that you're going inside here to provide police functions, under whose law? Under whose law? And then what about liability? What if you shoot somebody mistaken? Who's going to be liable? All of these things have to be considered. And that's what I'm saying. If they have considered it, they should come out and tell the public, here is what we're doing. Here are the reasons why we're doing it. And so people have a complete understanding why they do it, so that we wouldn't be having this discussion. We might be having a discussion as to whether or not it's reasonable. But now we're having a discussion and we're in the dark. Like Patrick says, we're in the dark because there's a lack of knowledge. And now we're speculating as to why they're going. We're speculating as to who should be doing this, who should be doing that. I just don't like it. Recent history, if anything, has informed us that before you go into someone's country, you better make sure you know why you're going in there. Kenya has been involved in Somalia for a long, long time. Doing what? Police functions. Is that country any better? No. So the idea that you have a foreign force on your soil, it doesn't mean anything, because now we're talking about not the presence, we're talking about results. So you can put them there all you want, but then if you're putting them there and they're gonna come home in body bags, what's the point? And at what point do you say we need to call in the US and the US and Canada and think, how many body bags do we have to receive in Jamaica of our people before we say, no, this is more than we can handle, man? We need to send more, we need to call in the US and let them do it. I'm saying, if you're gonna do it now. Don't wait for people to die. Do it now.
So let me get this straight. You and Patrick, you're saying then that you're open to the idea of troops going into Haiti if you know what the mission is and the purpose and all of that stuff. That's what both of you guys are saying, right?
No, that's not
No,
right.
that's not quite it. No. It is really a matter that the decision can only be made after you have all the factors, right, to consider as to why you're taking the action you want to take, right? Until then, all we can do is speculate as to why they're doing what they're doing, right? Which is not the real discussion that we should be having. The real discussion we should be having is to understand why they want to take a decision to send troops, even though there has been a request for troops. I mean, the discussion can go further. This is not the first time Haiti has been in the situation they're in. That's a first point I made, right? They have a history of being in this position, right? There have been many peacekeeping troops that have been there, right? Usually, for the most part, they go under the umbrella of the United Nations, right? Now it's a different ballgame, right? Why is it that we have to step up front and send troops? And why would we really be doing this, right? What are some of the factors that we need to take into account?
You know what just struck me, Patrick? We share like a sea border, right, with Cuba and the rest of them countries, right? The Dominican Republic shares a land border, and they have extensive relations with their neighbors. How come we don't see them leading the force going in there? How come?
But Radigan, we know the situation between Haiti and the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
You know, the Dominican Republic have a huge prejudice problem when it comes to Haiti.
I know that.
Right? And for them, it's as if nothing is happening. You understand?
All right.
So we don't expect the Dominican Republic to help substantially along that line.
All right, let me throw this at you. Point well made. So we now have we don't have a problem with prejudice against the Haitian people, right? But not too long ago, I think 18 of them trying to escape the violence and everything came to Jamaica. And what are we doing? We're sending them back.
Yes, that's true.
Ah,
That's
how can you say
something that I don't.
how can you say that Haiti is a failed state and we need to go in and normalize it, and you have people escaping the violence and the terror and the tyranny, and they make it to your border and you say, nope, you're not here legally, we're sending you back.
I was
Just like what the US do.
I was taken aback by that, Radigan. Up to today, I can't understand why our government, because the Jamaican government never usually have such a position, regardless of whether it's PNP, GLP. So I was surprised by that kind of action. But the problem I'm raising is that it's not that the security problem for Jamaica is going to happen if the situation escalates with the gangs continuing control. It is happening right now, right? The guns for trade, the guns for whatever trade that is taking place in Jamaica, and the access that people from Haiti have. Look how easy it is for somebody to jump on a boat and come to Jamaica as a refugee.
Let me ask you this. When was the first time the guns for trade and guns for food issue recognized? When was the first time?
I can't remember when the first time, but
it's been years. It's kind of rhetorical, because the point I'm trying to make is that this has been a problem for decades. So why no? I always ask this question when people say, let's do it now. I say, and I look and I say, wait a minute, there's a history of this going on for decades. So why no?
No, but
why no?
It has to be addressed, Radigan. It has to be addressed, whether now or later. It has to be addressed.
But why wasn't it addressed before? That's what I'm saying. Because this government,
I don't know. It's a failing. It's a failing on previous administrations.
Yeah, I remember.
But it has to be addressed.
Now I remember a few years ago that the Minister of National Security, Dr. Horace Chang, he mentioned it, that there's a drugs for gun and a drugs for food program illegal program going on between Jamaica and the Haitians. And I'm like, okay, so you recognize it, what are you doing about it? And now they cannot use that now to come and say, well, it's a national security threat, because they're sending guns and we're sending meat, or they're sending guns and we're sending drugs. To me, that's lame. That's a lame excuse to go in. That's a lame excuse.
That's one reason. We can't stand by as a country, I don't believe, as a neighbor of Haiti, and watch the decline that is taking place in Haiti and do nothing, and expect that everybody else should do something. But we don't have a responsibility.
But that's not even the question. That's not even the question. The essence of the question that Ratty is posing, because really what gets to the heart of the question is, if you're making a case, right, for Jamaican troops to go to Haiti, right, then let's hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're not talking about anything new.
Should we do nothing?
Right?
Sorry.
Why not?
Should we do nothing about the Haiti situation?
Just hear me out for a second. Hear me out for a second, because I want to speak directly to the point you just raised. Right? Why sending them in secrecy? One, why sending them without letting us know, the whole idea behind sending troops there? Are we sending them there to train a police force so that they can retain some kind of normalcy, whatever it might be? Right? We don't know what's happening. We absolutely don't know. We just basically speculating right here, right? And trying to take a position on it. But the thing about it is that you cannot look at Haiti in isolation of their history, right? Haiti has a long history. Haiti was the first country, right? The first slave country to get their independence, right? In 1803, right? They have an independence now way older than us, right? They have been having problems ever since, right? Some of it we're fully aware of, a lot of it we are not, right? I was reading a study just last week on the Haitian situation, right? More than half of the story has not been told, right? The thing about it is that we cannot keep thinking that our government is making the right decisions when they simply decide to do things and don't have an explanation, right? Where they simply take a position, commit us to a situation where we have no understanding as to what's really going on. That's what's at the heart of the issue.
Yeah, it goes to
The question I
accountability,
want to ask.
and
Sorry.
it goes to accountability, and it goes to transparency. You cannot commit your nationals to a cause that you haven't explained to your people. Because look, at the end of the day, it's not those politicians going. They're
Right.
not the ones going, right? They're telling Jamaican nationals, you're going to this. They're giving them an order. You're going there, and so at the very least, you need to explain to the people why is it that they're going. And I think yes, you have the position that you have taken on, but I think you would even agree with us that, yeah, you know, if you're going to send people over there, at least let people know why they're going.
Not even agree. I strongly agree with you on that point. I believe that the government owe the country an explanation, right? And to say what exactly, I raised that issue earlier, that they should say what we're going to do, whether it's a training mission, whether it's an active service mission, whatever they need to say. But at the end of the day, I believe we should contribute to that assistance in Haiti. Right? I don't believe that we should stand by and do nothing where Haiti is concerned.
No, this is where I believe in diplomacy. We have an organization in the Caribbean of which Haiti is a part of. And I'm saying if we're going to do it as a community, right? Let's get together as a community and come up with a plan and say, okay, this is why we're going in there. This is what we're going to be doing. Jamaica, you do that. Yeah, and then you do it that way. But when you go, it tells me that the organization is fractured then. If CARICOM is fractured, if the CARICOM can't sit down and say, look, we have a member state that's having issues and we need to go in as a community and make things right for the people of Haiti. So I'm not against going in. I'm just saying we need to consider why we're going in and under what umbrella, whose umbrella we're going in under. We can't just go in and say, well, Jamaica is going in. And we have CARICOM. Where's CARICOM in all of this?
I agree with the criticism against CARICOM. It's been decades that CARICOM has done, as a collective, has done absolutely nothing for the Haitian people. Right? So somebody has to take leadership somewhere. Somebody in CARICOM has to take leadership to do something. Even if it's 10 troops Jamaica send, and it can give other people a little inspiration to do something. I believe Jamaica should.
All right, since we're speculating, let me ask you.
I strongly believe that.
All right, since we're speculating, let's speculate. Let's speculate to the logical conclusion. I'll take it out further. You send 10 troops. Within the first week, 5 of them get killed, and they come back home in body bags. What do you do? Replace them with another 5?
At that time, the situation would have to be considered. What's happening in Haiti?
That's also considered. No, considered no.
No. You cannot. You cannot answer all those questions because situations can change in Haiti. It's a continuous assessment situation that has to be done.
But that's the very point. We can't answer any other question.
You can't just say. What's that?
That's the very point. We can't answer any questions right here now because the government is not being transparent.
Gentlemen, the government has said. Anyway, go ahead.
Gentlemen, it is obvious that we need more information on this mission to Haiti. We need more information. We all agree on that. Okay? So, can we move on to the other items in the news? Radigan.
Yes, sir.
You have some interesting news to share. I think you're in touch with you're probably the first man in touch with the king.
Oh, yeah. Did some research, and it's nauseating, and to some degree it's unbelievable.
Can you give us a background to those who are new to the program? What is
Yes,
it you're talking?
yeah. All right. The background is this, and I didn't go too far back. I went back to 2017, started looking at states of emergency, how they were implemented. Came to find out that you cannot have a state of emergency without the governor general assenting to it. He proclaims it. The prime minister can ask for it. The leader of the opposition can agree to an extension. But even so, the governor general, his signature must be on that. And he's the one who will proclaim it. They can't proclaim it. He proclaims it. I started looking at that. And then there were several cases when they started doing the states of emergency with people being arrested and charged. No, sorry, detained and charged. No, detained and arrested, but not charged, right? And they had to release them when the states of emergency expired. A couple of them sued. And then in one of the lawsuits, one judge determined that the state of emergency was unconstitutional. And so there was a civil judgment at some point. And then the government appealed that decision. And 2 weeks ago, the Court of Appeal in Jamaica said that they're not even going to take up the case for lack of jurisdiction, because what happened, they have something called a habeas corpus, which was filed in the Supreme Court, which is bring the body before the court. Essentially, it's saying that if somebody is detained and the detention is believed to be unconstitutional, you can go and seek relief from a court. And that's exactly what happened. The Court of Appeal said these writs of habeas corpus, they're handled at the Supreme Court level, and once they're handled. They're not going to interfere with the judgment. Therefore, they're saying that we don't have any jurisdiction to intervene in that or to overturn that judgment. And there were some other issues, but essential thing is that states of emergency, as of today in Jamaica, the way they have been implemented, they're unconstitutional. That's it. So now we move to the Constitution. What does the Constitution say about states of emergency? It says that the Governor General can proclaim it in 3 instances. If there's a war, like with Haiti, if we go to war, if there's an insurrection, like the Tivoli Gardens thing, people, going after the government, or natural disaster. It mentions nothing about your normal law enforcement activities, which is exactly what the government has been using states of emergency to address, right? They've been using it to deal with the uptick in murders and other crimes. So I wrote, and then when I went and looked at the Constitution, I started with who's in charge. Constitution says that the Parliament of Jamaica shall consist of the first entity mentioned, Her Majesty, right? Followed by the Senate and the House of Representatives. Then it says the government of Jamaica shall have a Governor General who will be appointed by Her Majesty and serve at Her Majesty's pleasure. Then there's another section in the Constitution that says if the Governor General has to consult or receive advice or this or that from anyone, he doesn't have to take that decision. He doesn't have to listen to what you're telling me. And that's an interesting point, because politicians in Jamaica have said to me that, no, the Governor General is a rubber stamp approval. Not by the Constitution, maybe by practice, but not by constitutional standards. He has the ultimate discretionary right to refuse anything brought to his desk. Right? And then it says further that if he refuses, you have no recourse in Jamaica. You can't take him to court. So the only person you can go to is the king, because he represents the king in Jamaica. Now, a couple of things I also found out. I found out that the Governor General, the government budgeted $441 million, something like that, this year for his office. And they gave him a pay raise of almost 200%. He's making about 35 million Jamaican dollars. Then they increased the budget for his office to $491 million for this year. So it was like 441, something like that. And then they increased it now to 491 this year. Then I looked at the tax code. I found that he's exempt from paying taxes. The Governor General pays 0 taxes in Jamaica. So now, and think about this, and everything having all the financing with his office is all the financing comes from the public coffers in Jamaica. England doesn't pay anything for him. The Jamaican taxpayer, they pay for him. Now imagine this. You are paying, you're outlaying all of this cash for this man, and he doesn't represent your interest. And this has been going on since 1962. And nobody has raised it. And so, wait a minute, why is it that we're paying him and he doesn't represent our interest? He doesn't answer to us. And in fact, we can't do certain things without his signature. Did you even know that the only person who can pardon somebody in Jamaica is the Governor General? Not the Prime Minister, not the Chief Justice. The Governor General, along with the Privy Council, they have the power to pardon someone for a crime in Jamaica. And he doesn't represent your interest, but you're outlaying all of this cash for him. So I decided to write his boss, which I did. I think it was July 28th.
And who is that boss?
His boss is King Charles III.
Okay.
So I wrote to King Charles III, and I said to him, look, you have a gentleman here who is violating the Constitution in your name. He's your representative. He doesn't represent our interest. And he's violating the Constitution because he has a discretionary right to reject all requests for a state of emergency for law enforcement purposes. He has that right, and he has not exercised that right, not once, at least not to our knowledge. So, I gave the king the quotations from various sections of the Constitution. I also gave him the case, the recent Court of Appeal case, and said, here is the case. Go have your personal secretary go read this case and tell you what the case is all about. And at the very end, I said to him, look, not only is this man causing the infringement of the rights of the Jamaican people, but he's also being a burden on the taxpayers, because when there's a civil judgment, the Jamaican taxpayer is responsible for making these payments. So, King, I'm asking you to take appropriate action against him. I didn't tell him fire him, and that would be inappropriate to tell the king to fire him or fine him or whatever. So I just said, please take appropriate action against him so that we don't have any more violations of the Constitution and we don't have a burden placed on the Jamaican taxpayer. So, what will the king do? I have no idea. Maybe this is the first time in the history of Jamaica somebody has ever done something like this. So,
first time I've heard.
Eh?
First time I've heard.
But and it went straight to his personal secretary. It didn't go to his regular office. It went to his personal secretary. So I don't know if the king is going to call him. The king is going to ignore it. I don't know what. But the important thing is that it has come to light. And yesterday on the program, when I mentioned it, a lot of people, we had over, I think the program, at one point, we had almost 1,000 people in the chat room. And I think about, I don't know, somebody said like 4, 5, 6,000 people watched it live. And we had a lot, and despite the technological problems we had issues with the audio. People couldn't hear, and we came on, then we went off, we came on, we went off, then we ended the show, then we restarted the show. And a ton of people listened, and by and large, they were saying, we didn't know that these things were going on. We didn't know that this man no pay taxes. We didn't know that this man is getting $491 million. We didn't know that him no pay a light bill, him no pay electric bill, him don't pay telephone bill, him don't pay a mortgage, him don't pay rent, him don't buy him clothes, him don't buy him food, him don't pay for the maid, him don't pay for the butler. We didn't know any of this. We thought, in fact, some people thought that it was. Yeah, some people thought that it was being paid for by England, by the UK, and I said no. You, the Jamaican taxpayer, if you buy a patty, you buy a box juice or something like that, GCT including that, it doesn't have to be income tax like you work and they take it out of that. It could be GCT as well, but you're paying for his stay there. And this is what he's doing to you. No consideration for the Jamaican people. He just sits there and they bring this stuff to him and he signs up. And this man he has unlimited power in Jamaica. Unfettered power in Jamaica. Nobody's challenging him. Well, I'm challenging him. Because what he's doing is completely wrong. And think about it. You pay him $400. You maintain his office to the tune of $491 million just this year alone, and you give him $34, $35 million. and ask yourself this one question: to do what? To do what?
Represent the king.
To cut ribbons and have cocktail parties. I mean, all four of us here could do a much better job with far less resources, right? And this man didn't come with any. This man didn't come with any credentials that would bolster his position as that. And he was never a diplomat. He was the head of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. This man was never a diplomat that you could say, okay, I understand that, you know, he used to work for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, was diplomat to the UK and blah, blah, blah. So he could transfer those skills over. None of that. In fact, Patrick,
he's representing us to God.
But
yeah, I tell you something too. He also has something. He has an award he gives out biannually. It's the Diaspora Award, and it's given to people who have done something in the community wherever they live overseas, and also helped with the development of Jamaica. So I made a joke last night. I said, I know that he's thinking about giving me this award, and he has to be thinking about giving me this award. But you know how it is, right? That will never happen. Like Minister Kamina Johnson Smith said, that would never happen. So
You'll surprise you. You'll surprise you. Don't worry.
No.
I don't know if you said something though, Ratty, to add to tie in with what you're saying, right? And even to expand on that point.
Mm.
I'm gonna go back to my own experience growing up, right? And what I knew, because I was always a keen scholar when it came to matters of history and understanding the political arena and understanding laws. That was my whole ambition, to become a lawyer, right? Because as I understood it, lawyers are the ones who really rule the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is that when I look back, before independence, before Jamaican independence, the governor who took Jamaica up to independence was a man they called Sir Hugh Foote.
Mm-hmm.
You can look it up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Sir Hugh Foote is the one who took us to independence. Right? He came from Britain. That was a white man. But the point I want to make is that even then, England never paid the bill. Jamaica paid the bill.
Mm-hmm.
England don't pay the bill. And the point I want to go on to make is, which is going to tie us into our next subject, is that before independence, we were supposedly dependent on England. But that was not the case. We were never dependent on them. They were dependent on us. You need to go back and look at the records in terms of what the colonialists made from their colonial entities in the Caribbean. We were the ones paying them. It was sugar and banana and all of those crops that gave England them wealth. It is slavery that gave them the wealth. After independence, right? Yes, we jump up and we celebrate and all of that, right? But the problem was that even when we got independence, supposedly got independence in 62, and the first Governor General after that, which was a man they call Clifford Campbell, right? He was appointed by the GLP government at the time, Bustamante government, right? And the whole procedure, as you say, Will, in terms of the whole Governor General thing, Jamaica appointed the Governor General and recommend it to England, right? But we are responsible. We are responsible not just for paying him, right? But we are responsible for everything he does. And not just him either, because the Governor General also has representatives throughout.
Yeah, the Custos.
The Custos.
Custos, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And we put all that bill.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's Crown bill. That's Crown matters. Now, why is it Crown matters? If we are independent, why is it Crown matters? Why do we have Crown matters at the top of our agenda? If nothing becomes a law unless they sign it, right? Why? Where's the independence in all of that? We have become more dependent rather than become independent, right? Now we're in a state where we owe them, right? We still trying to bargain. What's trying to bargain with England in terms of getting loans for do development in Jamaica? Why? We are owed. That's part of the reparation, right? We never benefit from slavery. We were supposed to become independent. That still hasn't happened. It is yet to happen. That is the problem. That is at the heart of what Ratty is saying in terms of this constitution. It's not worth the paper it's written on.
Can I say something here? It is obvious to me that the framers of the Constitution did not anticipate the reality that we have to deal with today. A different period, different conditions, and all that. Second obvious thing is constitutional reform that the country is going through right now is necessary. The constitutional reform. I just think that we need a national discussion that look at the office of the Governor General and other office and what kind of change we can make to make it more suit the Jamaican people. And that is something we're going to have a discussion on later, okay, around the independence. Rattigan, you had a second thing about Miss Johnson. You had an update on Miss Johnson.
Yeah, well, but let me. I don't want to skip to Miss Johnson yet. I just want to go back to the Constitution because you mentioned the Constitutional Reform Committee. It's a joke because just this week, it was put on trial for being a joke. How can you have a Constitutional Reform Committee where you're trying to change the Constitution, tinker with it, do this, do that, and then at the same time you quickly have a meeting where you change a provision of it and you extend the tenure of the DPP, the DPP and the Auditor General to 65. The Constitution says that they will serve up to age 60, with one extension going up to possibly up to 65. Now she got an extension for 3 years, which will end this year, and so they went in now and changed it because under the Constitution you can't get it doesn't require it doesn't mention a second extension, it mentions only one, and they moved it to 65. And here's the reason they provided for that. They said, well, there is a Public Service Act that says that public servants can work up to 65, and therefore we have to make the Constitution conform to that, which goes against the principle of the dominance of the Constitution over other laws. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. You don't change the Constitution to meet a Civil Service Act. It should be the other way around. When you pass a Civil Service Act, you pass it to stay within the confines of the Constitution. That is absolute nonsense. Then this idea about them passing it the way they passed it, the Auditor General and the DPP, those provisions in the Constitution, they're considered entrenched. And when something is entrenched in the Constitution, it requires more than just a simple majority. If it's a simple process, like they mentioned lowering the age from 21 to 18, that requires just a simple majority. But when you're talking about certain positions, like they talked about the Auditor General and the DPP, those are called entrenched provisions. Now you need 2/3 of both houses. And then you have another one called specially entrenched, which is when you want to remove the executive authority of the Queen, which is what they're doing now. Now that requires 2/3, and it also requires a referendum. No, the Auditor General and the DPP, they're considered entrenched, so they should have been 2/3 of both houses. I don't think they got 2/3 of both houses. They may have gotten of course, they have the power in the House of Representatives, but not in the Senate. You can't get 2/3. What is it? Is it 21 in the Senate?
Yeah.
and
I don't remember the numbers.
yes, 21, and the opposition gets 8.
Yeah, they have 13 and opposition has 8. Yeah.
Right. So how you get 2/3?
Without a PMP crossing over.
A PMP must cross over,
Yeah.
and it requires 2/3.
Yeah.
It's in the Constitution. And these people, I don't know if they don't read, but you know what?
As
I've come to the conclusion that we have some educated fools, right? And they're far more educated than I am. I consider myself an unremarkable student. And these people are remarkable. They've gotten A's throughout, from primary prep school all the way up to university. And they have PhDs. And I said to myself, then how is it that I can see these things and they can't see it? How?
you mentioned the committee, Radigan, and it's interesting that not one member of that constitutional reform committee said nothing about that.
Right.
Not one single. We never heard one single member of that. It's so amazing that this is a constitutional reform committee appointed by the government to do just that, reform the constitution. The government made this reform by themselves, and not one member of the constitution committee, reform committee, said A or B.
Yeah, Mr.
Nothing,
Hilton
absolutely
did.
nothing up to this point in time.
Yeah, the PMP did say something. Mr. Hilton put out a press release
And what did he
about
say?
that.
What did he
And
say?
Donna Scott.
What did
I'm
they
not
say?
sure, but there was a press
Yeah,
conference.
I saw the article. Yeah.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
was a
but
press
what I-
conference.
Against the reform.
No, against
Against
the
against
by the
away-
government. Yeah.
Yeah,
Against
yeah,
By
but
the action taken by the government, not and no consultation with them.
no, but yeah. But what they should be focused on is the 2/3 voting of both houses, because then it would be unconstitutional.
Well, the thing about it is that what they did actually would cover that as well, because they just came out and said, well, completely they were just never consulted, period. So even before you get to the Senate, the fact of the matter is that even if you have the votes in the lower house, the fact of the matter, it don't prevent you from bringing it forward, right? For to the opposition and everybody, for there to be a collective vote then.
But here's what they should have done. Well, here's what they should have done, Patrick. The moment, because Mark Golding came out and he said that he got wind of it, that they were going to do it that day or the following day, they should have immediately gone to court and filed for an injunction. That's what they should have done.
I think what they did, was the leader of opposition business in the Senate, Peter Bunting. I think he employed 2 lawyers who sent a note to the Governor General saying that if this thing go through, they're going to challenge it in the court.
Yeah.
That is what they did. That's as far as action.
Yeah,
on
but here's the
PMP.
thing. I wouldn't even wait for that.
That's the later action. That's not the action.
I wouldn't. Yeah, but look, as a lawyer, you have to think strategically. And what I would do if I were representing the opposition, I'd say, look, let's not wait. The damage has been done. The moment they say that this is a bill, right? I know it's gonna go to the Governor General for its royal assent. You file your injunction right there, because the damage has been done. Because they said, listen, there was no consultation and they didn't have the required 2/3 votes. And you file the injunction right there. Don't wait for the Governor General to sign off on, because he's going to sign off on this. Unless the king talked to him since the letter and say, hey,
he's rubber stamp.
Yeah, unless the king talked to him since the letter and say, listen, you better be careful when you sign now, because otherwise I might just get rid of you.
Yeah.
He's rubber
stamp,
unless that happens,
he's gonna sign.
Yeah, I wouldn't wait for him, because he's going to sign it.
I think what we also know is that Holness is a very undemocratic person. We know that. This is not just one. Remember the unsigned letters that he used? He's very undemocratic. And that is clear. And I hope the Jamaican people are seeing this, because I don't think we can continue like this for too long. But Miss Johnson.
Oh, Miss Johnson.
What about Miss Johnson?
Yeah, Miss Johnson.
She's part of the Democratic.
Yeah, we don't have time to talk about Miss Johnson, because I'm telling you, I have 6 folders right now with all kinds of documentation, because I was able to get some stuff from the FARA unit of the Department of Justice, Foreign Agents Registration Act unit, and they're responsible for making sure that U.S. persons doing business with
Overseas.
with foreign principals, that they notify the U.S. government about their activities. And so,
Well, give us a short version. Don't give us a long version.
the short version is that the U.S. company that provided the services to her, they found themselves in a pickle because they indicated to the U.S. government that they were paid by none other than Kamina Johnson Smith. That's who they named as the person who they received their payment from, and that's who received the services. They told the U.S. government this as far back as June of last year, and it was only May of this year, May 1st of this year, that they notified the U.S. government, and they said, "Oh, we made a mistake. The person who paid us was was Grace Kennedy, Duncan, blah blah blah," and they named 6 people. Right? What happened between the time when they notified the government that the minister paid them and now the lawsuit? That's what happened. And so they went and they made all kinds of amendments. But it's clear, it's very clear now, it's more clear than ever that there were shenanigans going on. It's more clear now than ever that at one point she was designated, she was identified as the person who paid Finn Partners. And it's more clear to me now than ever that, and this is not an allegation, and I tell people this, I hate the word allegation. I try to stay away from allegation because allegation says to me that you're not quite sure of what you're saying, and so you're hedging your bet that the court of law or court of public opinion will take your side. Well, I like to go by facts, and when I say something is a fact, somebody must come and tell me that it's not a fact. And what is a fact is that she said she didn't receive a gift, she didn't receive a benefit. Now, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs sent me a letter saying that they got no gift. And then the Office of the Cabinet sent me a letter saying they don't know anything about a gift or a benefit. No, the Office of the Cabinet represents the government because the Cabinet is the government. And they say, I have that letter saying that we have, Mr. Atkinson, we have no documentation evidencing, that can respond to the questions that you're at. Because I asked them, did you get a benefit? Did you get a gift? If you did, where's the documentation evidencing this? And if you have the documentation evidencing this, where is the filing under the Financial Administrative and Audit Act? Where is the filing under Circular 17 with the Ministry of Finance? They said, no, we don't have none of that. Because if they did, they're supposed to file it. There is no filing. And one key thing, if you remember when she was announced as a Jamaican candidate, right, as a candidate from Jamaica, I should say, for this position as Secretary General, everybody and their grandmother jumped out and had press conferences pointing to her accolades and saying, oh, she's a great person. Private industry did it, government did it. And if you notice, since the lawsuit has been filed, how many people have come out in her defense? How many government officials have come out in her defense? How many PSOJ members who supported her privately come out in her defense? Not one. And guess what? They won't come. They will not come because they know that what I'm saying is the truth. And that's why I say to you, I'm not making any allegations here. I'm just stating facts. They must come and tell me now that the government of the U.S. government, the documents that I got from them, they're bogus. They must come and tell me that the documents I have from the Office of the Cabinet and from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, they're bogus. That's what they must come and tell me. But they can't tell me that it's an allegation. They can't tell me that. So that's where we are.
And likewise, they'll stall to get to court to explain it.
And they can stall, of course, and they can stall all they want. But you see, what happened is that Mama no raise no fool, no Patrick, because here what we see when we're in court, this hearing should have been wrapped up like the first time, or maybe another hearing close to the time period where we had the first hearing. And they came out and they said, they talked to the judge and the judge said, all right, let's do it in September. And they all said, yes, September. And I raised this objection My attorney was sitting there and I said, no, me now wait for her for really ask me anything because she might not ask. And I raised it with the judge. I said, Judge, let's do it in October. They want September. We'll do October. But mama no raise no food because you know why? Come October, me I go have everything me need. I don't need me don't need September. Me need September for go and work. October, no. We have everything. I mean, I already have most of the stuff I need anyway. But we say time is not of the essence here. Time is because you know what? This is death by 1,000 cuts. Because the longer it takes for me to get to court is the more opportunities I'll have to get more information. And I'm telling you, they will not support her. Not the prime minister won't support her. Her husband won't even support her on this one. Because when they look at the stuff I have, they're gonna go, why, Kamina? Yeah, in my view, no. Because she boxed herself in. Because when she said, I didn't get a gift, I didn't get a benefit, it was the government that got the benefit. First question, who got the gift? You didn't get the gift. Are you saying the government didn't get the gift? You said they got the benefit, and you know a lot about that. But do you know anything about the gift? The gift was given. Who got the gift? It's very simple. Corporate Jamaica paid Fin Partners to provide a gift of services to her. The law says you can get a gift of services, including consultancy services, which is exactly what she got because it's spelled out in the contract. It's spelled out.
And the question is not about the gift or the benefit. It's about the handling of it.
Exactly.
Right. That's really what it is. So nobody has denied that there's a gift and the benefit, but the fact of the matter is that they don't have any way to account for what became of it.
Right. I know she's gotten herself in a pickle because here's what happened. She came out and said she didn't get a gift and she didn't get a benefit. So you know what that means? That means she didn't file. Why would you file saying I didn't get a gift? No, you only file when you get a gift. So she didn't file. And guess who she didn't file with? Integrity Commission. And guess what she was supposed to do? In her statutory declaration, there's a section called gift, where you put down the value of the gift that you received, including gift of services. And she didn't put that down. No, that's a false declaration. Punishable up to 2 years in prison and $500,000 in $500,000 Jamaican dollars in fines. And I'm saying, no, we all talk about corruption. We all talk about the privileged few. We all talk about preferential treatment for politicians. We all talk about them skirting the rules. Make an object lesson out of this.
Yeah.
Make an object lesson out of this woman. Send her to prison. If it's only for a year, send her to prison. Send her to prison. And you will send a strong signal that the time for us to with this toleration of corruption and the ancillary things around corruption, those days are over. No, we mean business. That's what I'm asking for. And the Jamaican people deserve it. We talk about it all the time, but the question is, what do we do about it? And that's what I say to the naysayers, the people who say, "Cho, I'm bad mind. Cho, him not get the job, and Cho, him not this and Cho." And I said, listen, let me ask you a question. Do you believe that there are issues concerning corruption and politicians and skirting of the rules and violating of the rules and blah blah? Yes. Do you think we should do something about it? Yes. Then why don't you join me? Why you cuss me? Join me. This is what I'm doing. I'm trying to do something about it. You know?
Yeah, but that's because them have a phrase that they always use. The whole phrase that them use is that them show up smoke screen.
Smoke screen. Yeah. But look, right is right, truth is truth, wrong is wrong, falsity is falsity. And if we have somebody who's violated the rules, we should hold her accountable, and we should issue the appropriate punishment. And sometimes the punishment, it may seem inappropriate, but inappropriate in the sense that people might say, well, it was just she just didn't file. But in terms of justice, it might be appropriate to issue a prison sentence because you want to send a message. Sometimes it's beyond the act and beyond the person. It's for the society at large to say, this is where we're going now. And
it's for the accountability as well.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where we are, Mr. Anita.
Okay. Gentlemen, today, August 6th, 61 year of political independence.
You start Patrick now. Not talk about independence, you start him up now.
No, because I'm interested in finding out how the brethren them see this thing, because since Jamaica independence, what we have seen is domination by the politicians. We have seen the politicians dominate Jamaican people life. We have also seen a growth in violence. It's like violence, become embedded in most of the working class community, right? Where we go from here? 60. What does this mean to you guys? 61 years of independence. What really mean? What is it that we're expecting from an independent Jamaica? What's your thinking? What's your expectation?
First of all, we have to be absolutely clear. We have to be absolutely clear. Right? There's no talking behind them. We stand right up front and make it be known. We are yet to be independent, whether politically or economically. Right? Because we're still being dictated to by the old colonialists. Right? The old colonialists and the new one. Colonialism and neo-colonialism. Right? There's no independence. Right? There's a partial independence if we want to give them that, to say, well, okay, more people can vote. So it's not just landowners that can vote anymore, right? Maybe more people can vote. But that's about it. It's still all honor and glory to the crown. It remains that. It remains a situation where we have become more in debt under so-called independence than we were pre-independence. And pre-independence, it was plundering our labor. It was plundering our resources, everything. Right? It was a situation of really up against large landowners and the colonialists. Right? Now we are supposedly under independence, and we still have a government which govern in many ways, like the whole colonial government. And nothing has been said or done in the way of reparations to address what was done to us, right? And giving some accountability for us to get on a path of real independence. So that is the situation, particularly as it pertains to independence, or what is so-called independence, right? Independence is not about songs and celebration. It is about really becoming independent, right? It is about us having some self-direction. It is about us building a movement to take us to a better Jamaica, right? A Jamaica that really works for its people. We are yet to see that. Right?
So are you saying that Jamaica doesn't work for some people?
Well, I just said it, right? It continues to work for the elite, right? For the most part. That's basically what happens, right? We're still being governed from the top down, right? Not from the bottom up, but from the top down.
Look, the question I have is, today is August the 6th, and they've billed it as the 61st anniversary of our independence. And we always celebrate independence. What are we celebrating? That's what I'd like. What are we jump up and down and carry on, but what are we actually celebrating? Now, if the idea is that, well, 61 years ago we got the right to vote, then we shouldn't be celebrating, because over 60% of us don't vote.
We got the right to vote in 1944, not 62.
Oh, no, that's why I'm asking you. So what are we celebrating then?
Well, we administer our affairs in certain respect.
No, hold on. No, but hold on a second. Don't forget that the executive authority of Jamaica rests solely within the province of the Governor General. So tell me again, what are we celebrating?
Well,
And if you talk about legislative, no law can be signed without the Governor General's royal assent. So the question again is, what are we celebrating?
we have the right to establish our own government.
Yeah, but the government is not your own government, because you cannot pass laws without the monarchy's assent. So how can you be independent? Independent means you do it without anybody have to get permission from anyone.
And further to that as well. Further to that, we were not a party to the Constitution, the composition of the Constitution. We were not a party to that. This was a Constitution handed to us.
Yeah, it was provided to us. Yes.
Right.
So again, the
It
question.
had nothing to do with it.
Right. So again, the question I ask you, Mr. Nita, the question I ask you is, what are we celebrating?
I'm going to say the same thing. We can mark it, despite the limitation of the Governor General and what have you, we still able to go vote for people and establish our own government.
But you just said that said that voting was established in 1944.
Right, but we have, as an independent nation, we can represent ourselves in international bodies, international forum, international organization. We have a lot of other rights that come with that. Mark, I'm not saying we have total independence.
But that was what independence was supposed to be about, total independence.
And that's the problem.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter, to Michael, if I might add this, is that, okay, for those of us who been looking at this thing for some time, back in school, they used to try to justify it by saying, well, okay, we get political independence. But the fact of the matter is that our lawmakers can only make the laws, right, and the sanction of the crown. Without the sanction of the crown, it's not our, we don't make the laws, right?
Cool.
So that is fundamentally the point that Ratty has labored on in terms of this Governor General, and his custodies across the country.
Unlike previous years, the Governor General, although is representative of the King or the Queen, he cannot dictate to us when it comes to the sort of government that we want.
Why not?
He cannot.
Why not?
Because that is outside of his responsibilities.
No, but hold on, Michael.
No?
Remember this, that the sort of government we have was established in the Constitution that was provided to us.
Okay.
So how can you say we're independent? Something was given to you and said, this is how you're going to function. We didn't, as a unique set of people, right, organically said, this is our Constitution and this is how we want to be governed. It was handed down to us and said, this is how you're going to be governed. So where's that political independence?
Again, I'm coming back to the political parties. We can take part in our own political process without Britain saying to us, this must be done or that must be done.
All right, let me give an example.
We have that freedom to engage. Limited, yes.
You know what? In having the freedom, there is something called you're free to be dumb. And I'll tell you why. Don't forget that just recently last year, when we decided to support Baroness Patricia Scotland, the British Prime Minister encouraged the Jamaican government to put up Kamina Johnson-Smith. Was that a smart idea? We followed. Where's the independence? That's what I'm saying. The independence is that you're free to be dumb. You're not thinking. That's the freedom we have. And that's the freedom they want us to have.
And duped into thinking that the Governor General is merely a rubber stamp.
Exactly.
Last.
It's
a struggle.
It's a situation like this. It's like to think that we have full freedom. It's a joke, right? But at the same time, we can say with independence, we have made some strides. Because you know why? The kind of racist situations that we had to put up with under colonialism, some of it, not all of it, some of it we have been able to bypass. I remember the days when I was a little kid, and I remember you go into a bank and the kind of the complexion people you see in a bank are in government institutions. I remember when all the police people who were commissioner and deputy commissioner and all of these names I used to hear as police high command people were all white people, right? So it's not true to say we have not made any strides. We have made strides in some respects, right? It's not a joke. We have made strides, right? And we have made those strides not because anybody gave us the opportunity to make those strides. We have had to make those strides because of struggle, right? Because in those days when just wearing a Rastafarian hairstyle could land you in jail, right? We have made strides. So, it's not fair to say that because we still have a governor general and all of that stuff, that we have not made strides. We have made strides culturally. There was a time when only certain music could be heard on JB on RGR, right? You never hear reggae music played or certain cultural items on certain radio stations, right? And people speaking in a certain way, right, could not be represented on a platform, right? So we have made strides. It's not enough, right? Considering how long we have been independent, it's not enough, and the struggle continues. We have to continue to seek full freedom and full rights as citizens of the country, right? The political system itself does not guarantee us as Jamaicans the kind of power that we think we should have and the kind of rights that we think we should have. And the reason is as Ratigan and Patrick state, the constitution that we have, although they had some Jamaicans participating in putting together this constitution had to be approved. The constitution, before it was implemented, it had to be approved,
Approved
right,
by who?
by the people, approved by the people who we're seeking independence from, right? So you laugh, but that tells you something. What is going to be in that constitution? We couldn't expect much more if it by the people we're seeking independence from. I mean, it's going to be written. Although those Jamaicans were there, it had to be written in a kind of way, right? That these people would say, yes, you deserve your independence. So there's not much we could have expected from the Constitution at that time. So we know have to ensure, right? That is why we're putting so much pressure and so much heat on the Constitutional Reform Committee and any kind of effort to reform this constitution, because it does not reflect our expectations as mainly black Jamaicans.
Let me ask you a question,
No, but
Lance. We talk about you talk about or indicated racism And you said you saw it in the banks where we didn't see people who look like us working in certain positions. Maybe they were cleaning the banks, but not, as cashiers, as managers, and so on and so forth. And that we've covered some distance, not where we should be, but we've covered some distance. Do you consider Jamaica to be a classist society?
Of course it is.
Okay.
Of course
Then,
it is.
right. And then when you look at the classes, who do you see in the upper classes?
The upper classes still represent the complexion of the in the main part, the complexion of the slave masters.
Right.
Right.
And therefore,
this is why when it comes to things like bleaching, we have to put bleaching in a context, because a lot of our people see getting ahead, and when they look at the people in position today in Jamaica, it is those people who are of a certain complexion.
Yeah.
Right? And they believe that if they become of that complexion too, they can probably reach somewhere. It is still class, there's still racism here in Jamaica.
Okay. And that's why I'll make the argument that it's not the bleaching, it's the brainwashing. They need to bring back the teachings of Marcus Garvey in school, so that people can appreciate who they are and be proud of who they are.
They're not gonna do that.
There you go.
They cannot be relied on to do that. That's the whole point about it. The fact of the matter is, to your point, Lass, is that you can't even watch it in terms of color. You have to look at the thing objectively. Has the status quo changed? No. The status quo basically remains the same, right? Has land distribution changed? No, right? It pretty much remained the same. Now we get to the point where even the verb public beaches we're losing, right? There's not a constitution that's there that makes provision, right, to secure its Jamaican people, right, on a whole, not on the basis of class. That's a fundamental situation right now, right? That the status quo basically remain in place, right? When you don't see the colonialists, what you do see is representatives, agents of the same colonialists, right? It's the same way them govern, right? And then them have the colonialists for rubber stamp it same way, right? That's what nothing has changed.
Can I say something here? Let me say something here. It is not fair to say nothing has changed in Jamaica since independence. Under the independence period, since independence, we have people looking like us conducting trials. In the past, it was really representative from the ruling class. Now we have more black individuals. The Chief Justice is black. You go to the circuit court, most of the people you see there running the state are black people. So that is a very important change. It might not be to the extent to which we want.
But okay. I already said it. We're getting crumbs from the table.
But hold on a second.
The point is, there has been change in Jamaica. You can. Who recall the man named Portius? You know Portius?
I know Portius.
Yeah, man, I know Portius.
Portius?
Yeah, man.
Portius was a very powerful black man in the Jamaican society.
But Michael, let me take a little bit of issue with that. Jamaica is approximately 92% black.
More than that.
And when we can point to only one man or a few men and say, look on a black man there, that's not enough. No, you talk about the Chief Justice and this and that. The question is, what kind of justice is being meted out? We're not talking about the color of the justice. We're talking about the color of his opinion. And if they have the Stockholm syndrome where they feel like, oh, you know what? we now start feeling sympathetic. We start feeling as our oppressors. We want to look like them. We want to be like them. We want to do this. Then at that point, it doesn't really matter what they do. All we're doing is just putting up a black person there. But when you look at their decision, when you look at the results, still the same. And some people might even argue that Jamaica was in a better position under the colonialists because roads were better.
Some people
Yeah,
say
them
that.
say, hey, things were better under the colonialists than they are now, because especially now that you expect that, oh, we have some black people there that we're going to get true justice, we're going to get true service delivery. And what we get? What we get, Michael?
I'm not saying that everything is hunky-dory. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it is unfair to say no change has happened in Jamaica since independence. Yes, there's change. There's change. There's also shortcomings in terms of areas like land ownership and other stuff. You understand me? But we have made progress.
All right. Tell me.
As a nation, we have made progress.
I think we need to add something to change. I think we need to add real effective. And then you put change, not just change, because if you say change, you can't say, well,
qualitative change.
Yeah, you can't say, well, a black man is a chief justice, so therefore that's a change. And I'm saying, but if the quality of his justice is the same as the people before him, which doesn't help to improve the lot of black people, then what point is it? So let me ask you this: tell me 2 qualitative change since independence.
Election.
That's not one.
Why not?
No.
Because there was election before.
We
already said that. You said go back to 1944. There was election before 1962.
But in this one, in the previous election, you had to have certain things in order to take part, to participate.
Mm-hmm.
Since independence, you don't have to have that.
Michael, that's why we say qualitative change, because look at the last election. How many Jamaicans didn't vote in the last election? They have the right, but they didn't
that's a
exercise
separate issue. You're talking about.
It's connected to it, because what's the point of giving people a right if you don't teach them how to exercise it? And you know, when I say teach, you can teach negatively too, and that is exactly what happened. We don't have a government that's for the people, and therefore people feel turned off, and they feel like we don't have a choice.
Is it just a government or the political parties? Is the problem?
Oh, well, if you make then you can't make that a qualitative change, because you just said that things have changed and people can vote and everything. So as if to say you concur with the voting process. So you must tell me now that I don't concur with the voting process. And the thing about voting is an illusory thing, because we should have more political parties. Tell me that, and then we're on the same wavelength.
I'm all for that, in fact, one of the things I want to see going forward is proportional representation. I would like to see that written in the Constitution. Another thing I would like to see is in the Parliament, a set amount of seats are set aside for special interest group like women. Set aside, they have a percentage in the Parliament. I would like to see that. I would like to see the Rasta movement somewhere in the Constitution. It is recognized as an indigenous Jamaican product. I would like to see all of that. But are we going to get there tomorrow? I doubt it, because the political parties that we have.
Here's a problem I face. Sorry, Mikey. You finished, Mikey?
Go ahead.
Here's the problem I face. I see we gain independence, but the people who are representing us want to rule in the same way as the people where we get independence from.
Exactly.
That is my issue. That is my issue with the whole question of independence.
And
we have leaders who them don't see no need to be different from the colonialists. them think the system that the colonialists had is, is good enough to continue. And they be the representative. They be the black version of the colonialists. Right? And so we have a system that has continued unchanged. While over the years, I mean, there has been a little bits and pieces of amendments to the Constitution, right? Bits and pieces, but no substantial amendment to make the rule or the situation different in the country. This morning, I was listening to an interview with Dan Robotham, and the question was about growth versus development, right? And it brings me back to this same political issue where, where is the development for the Jamaican people that we say is substantial, that we can say happened since 1962? It is very difficult. The question Radigan has been asking Nita is to show what is the substantial development where you can put your fingers on, right? To say this is how far we have come in terms of progress, right? Myself trying to answer the thing, I have to be just looking at those little cosmetic changes that I've seen growing up, like people in the banks and you know, representation of Rasta in a society, things like that. But those changes are not substantial enough to say, boy, independence brought us this, right? If anybody should ask us the question that Radigan is asking, what is the substantial change that you can talk about and boast about as a Jamaican since independence? I'd be searching my brain and stuttering, you know, just to try to pick these things, right? Because I know during the PNP era under the money time, there was a little bits and pieces of constitutional reforms. But we're no bastard child and all of those kind of stuff. But what is the substantial thing that make us feel that, boy, we really come a long way? Because right now we can't say we come a long way. We have come some ways, but this is not a long way from independence in 1962. And that's a shame. It is a shame. Believe me, right? It is a shame that we can look on the kids, the people who are younger than us, right? And say, these are the substantial progress that we have made since 1962, which you should be proud of, and you can go abroad and you can proclaim this thing, right? And be proud as a Jamaican. No, we haven't got that yet. We haven't got that far, right? But still, I want to recognize those little bits and pieces of changes.
And you know what, Lass? That's exactly what I said on my program yesterday. I said I want to recognize it. I want to recognize it. I'm not necessarily celebrating it. I just want to recognize it. Let me just go back to a point that Nita raised. He said, well, we had our own government. We could do our own government. No, we could do our own government. Let me refer him to something that just happened, right? Something called a green paper that was issued on June 20 of this year, and something called the job description for ministers of government that was issued on the same date. 61 years later, almost 61 years later, we're coming up with a job description for members of parliament and job description for ministers of government. Almost 61 years, and we say, oh, we have our own government now, we can do our. Also, here's something else. In 2016, in the 2016 throne speech, right, which is a reflection of what the government intends to do for that fiscal year. As we know, Parliament cannot start without the throne speech. And who delivers the throne speech? None other than the all-powerful, almighty Governor General. If him no make a speech, Parliament cannot open. Remember that, Nita. Cannot open constitutionally. No Parliament can start without the GG lead the procession and make the speech. And here is something that he said in 2016. He said, among the major action items on our legislative agenda for this year are, and then list a bunch of them. 2016, one of them he mentioned is a constitution bill to replace Her Majesty the Queen with a non-executive president as head of state. This is 2016.
A non-executive president.
2016.
A non-executive president.
He said a non-executive president. Yes.
Right. That means him fully control then.
Yes.
Right? When you have a non-executive president, it means him fully control.
Yeah. And then here it said.
Why you say that? Why you say that?
Well, I know. Well, I'm going to finish the man before we take on Patrick. I'm going to finish because you talk about government, say independence, give freedom for run government. Here's the next one. Fixed election dates. Parliament. Here what I'm saying. Parliament this year. What year? This year. What's this year? 2016.
2016.
Will see legislation to create fixed election dates and term limits for whom? The Prime Minister. 2016. This is the kind of government we get, and this is government we are celebrate what we get from independence. Come on, man.
I am. Let me be clear. I'm not celebrating the government or what have you. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is that any discussion around independence must start with a recognition that we have made some progress. We have made some progress. We can get up, go vote. We do not need to have land. We do not need to have certain things, as was the practice prior to 62. Okay? My position is there's much more to be done. And I list some. For example, I would like to see something written about women, giving a woman a greater voice in our parliament and in our Senate. I would like to see something that recognizes the indigenous movement, Rasta movement, as part of the Jamaican culture. I would like to see proportional representation. Those are aspirations, but in the current condition, I would have to say we have made progress, but the problem is that we are saddled with a bunch of thieves and criminals who have taken over the state and manipulating the Jamaican process. Okay? That is what is happening in Jamaica right now. You know, people get into office and they dominate the life of the Jamaican people. A bunch of corrupt individuals. That is separate from the whole independent movement.
Can I respond to that?
Go ahead.
Just to respond directly to what you just said, Michael. All right. And I'll give you as far as the vote is concerned, fine. Right? But it doesn't stop there. Right? It doesn't stop there. What's at the heart of the issue is, right? What independence truly must mean, right? It must mean that we become totally, right? Independent of our colonial masters, our neo-colonial masters, right? And by that, what I'm saying is, yes, it's a process. It is a process, right? But it must begin, first of all, with a constitution that gives us a direction. And I don't mean a constitution handed to us. I mean a constitution that is put together with our participation. That's what constitution means, right? Because constitution means whatever it is that constitutes, right? That comes together. It's that coming together. And that is why it is so fundamental for the constitution, right, to be one of the people, for the people, right? Because it has to have participation by the people. It's not something that's handed to us. That's the first thing, right? When you look at you raise some points in terms of certain groups and so on. Where would be the participation for those groups if they are not part of the process of bringing together this constitution? If they are not involved in that process, look at what has happened. Look at what is happening. In fact, right? With the Maroons in the Cockpit country, right? With the mining, right? With the mining on Maroon lands, right?
Gentlemen, listen.
Where's the protection? Where's the protection? That's
Lita.
what the Constitution would be, because the Constitution would become the overarching law, you know, which is really gonna be used to guide us forward, you know.
Patrick, I think Rattigan
Listen.
wants to.
Yeah, no, I have something. I have to make a quick run. So
Well, we don't have too much time to go in now. We soon around 5 more minutes and we wrap up.
Them are call me right now. I have something. I have definitely have to deal with this. So we
All right, my brother. All right. Thank you for it.
Patrick.
Yes, take
Peter,
care. Take
and
care.
listener and the viewing audience. We catch up next week.
Yeah.
All right, my brother. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
No,
This is-
that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying. That
my thing, you know, is I'm not saying that we don't have pitfalls and setback and what have you. Because if you remember, Michael Norman Manley charge to the People's National Party was that the next generation must look about economic independence, right? That was the PMP stuff. I'm saying that we have, as a Jamaican, we have the right and freedom to elect who we want to represent us and government. We have that right. You know, and it's something that we should cherish. Because you look around the world and you see what is happening when it comes to democratic rights. You know, it's really under threat. You know, so starting with that, a recognition of the progress, I think, would be a good way of getting the Jamaican people involved. Because I'm pretty much sure if you go to them and say nothing happens to 62, you're not going to get them support. They're not going to support you. You know, so start with that. The recognition of where we are today, where we're coming from, and where we hope to go. That's what I think. The others might have a different view, but
I think I understand. I understand clearly what you're saying, Michael. It's just that I'm saying more. I think more has to be done than just merely celebrating year after year, right? Something which requires a lot more to celebrate.
Of course. Nobody can disagree.
We're not at the celebration point yet, as far as I'm concerned. 61 years later, right? Where we can be saying we have made qualitative progress. I'm saying that the progress that is indicated is mere crumbs. Right? Is mere crumbs. The status quo primarily remain the same, right? In fact, we find more things slipping from us, right? We have become a country more indebted to the same colonialists and neo-colonialists from before.
And I'll make a distinction there. For the people of lighter complexion, they have made more progress than the Afro-Caribbean people in Jamaica. That's the distinction I'll make. The black people remain, occupy the hillside. The condition of black people in the country is terrible. The white people and other complexion people, they have made a lot more progress than us. You know, yes, there are a lot more that need to be done. Lot more. But we can't do it without the people involvement.
Absolutely.
We can't do it without people involvement. And to involve the people, we have to recognize the reality we have, which is we have that And I go back to again, we have that franchise where we can vote out a government.
Mm-hmm.
We never have that before.
But the what I believe is that how far we have come, we should have had a more representative form of government, a government where it's not just the two parties who pass the post first plus the second runner-up who have a voice in the country, right? It should be other people should have a voice. In too many communities, when you grow up in the ghetto in Jamaica, especially in Kingston, and you realize when some work program are give out in the communities, two set of people represented in those programs in the main. It is PNP people and GLP people. And as long as the work is divided between these two groups, it seems as everything is okay, right? You can't run a country like that. We need to have a country where represent everybody. As Nita pointed out, we need a country where represent the Rastafari. We need to have a country where represent the people who know business with politics, right? But see, understand that their voice is important in the development of the country, right? That is the kind of system that we need in another country, where everybody have an opportunity to contribute, not just to talk, but to contribute, right? So we hope that going forward with the constitutional changes that is taking place, we can influence the things sufficiently, right? To get a constitution that represent a more representative set of people in the country, right? And give them more power to change things in them country, right? That is what we want, to be an independent nation where everybody can contribute, right? And feel that whatever they have to contribute is listened to. And right now, a large cross-section of Jamaica really not feel like say anybody listening to them voice inside of the constituencies, inside of the communities, right? The politician is the sole voice in most of these communities. And the big business people, these are the people who have a voice in the country, right? Anything that the big business organizations want to happen in the country, it is going to happen. That anything the small people in the country want to happen, it never ever happens. Just to make minor changes, just to get a street light. If you get a street light on certain street of a community, and you as an ordinary community individual, feel like say you have a voice, that's not right. And our independence should guarantee us more.
Well, don't forget this. In 1938, it was ordinary people who revolted and led to the changes in Jamaica. This time around, the people are not out there. They are not out there. But again, Marcus Garvey said when the people back against the wall, they're going to revolt. At this point, it's a younger population we're working with who are more into the bling bling and the bling bling culture and what have you. I agree with both you and Patrick. More need to be done and more should be done. The question is how. How?
And
And
the people shouldn't have to revolt to get changes. Right? It shouldn't have reached to the point where people are forced to revolt in order to get changes. We have leaders who should have the interests of the people at heart and know that certain changes, need to take place. Of course, the people need to stand up and let them voices heard, but it shouldn't have to make people have to revolt if we get positive changes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I,
On that note, Patrick, you having something to say?
yeah, I just did want to add, to what your board said that my thinking is that I think one of the things we need to put in our discussion program along the way is to really get into a discussion in terms of the Constitution and what really should be done in terms of, moving forward and constitutional change. Guys, not reform now we're talking about, it's constitutional change. We're talking about a new constitution. It's really what's needed, right? Because the Constitution pretty much forms like a roadmap of sorts because it has to address everything in terms of development moving forward, right? It will be the supreme law of the land, right, to protect the people them, because that's the real purpose what the law is supposed to serve, not to punish people, but really for protect people, right? So that's just what I wanted to add. At some point we have to look at that as well.
I'm in full agreement with you, brother man. And on that note, I think we can call it end of a day because been 2 hours since we've been talking, and I want to thank both brothers for your input. Also, the listeners. We have over 200 listeners to the live chat, which is wonderful. I love to see that. I also would love to see more of the listeners subscribing to the channel. And remember, we do this every Sunday at 4 o'clock. Okay? We do not have all the answers, but we are trying. And if you think you have, the Jamaican, if you think that you have the answers, give us a call. Or come in and make a comment, and we'll have you on the panel also. Okay. So remember, 4 o'clock on Sundays, American time, which is 3 p.m. Jamaican time. To all my Jamaican listeners, much love, walk good, and enjoy the rest of the Sunday evening. Patrick,
and tell everybody how to do it.
Thank you guys very much. Yes.
Yeah, man.
Tell everybody how
respect
they do.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Respect to the audience.
All right,
Come on,
bro.
Take care, brothers. Yeah.
Yeah, bro. Yes,
Yeah,
I.
man. Much love, brother. Something here.